Hey everybody, what I'm going to do today is show you the latest script that I've created. Others which I've done recently have been uploaded to DCS, and this one will be uploaded there too. So this one here is for artillery, and the idea of the script is you can use your helicopter to deploy an HQ, an artillery battery HQ out into the field. You then populate it with artillery pieces. The battery then becomes active, and you can then engage targets which the script will automatically detect for any red targets that either are existing on the map or that spawn onto the map as your mission progresses. It allows you to engage the targets with different types of ammunition, whether it be high explosives, whether it be cluster munitions, whether it be illumination, smoke, etc. It keeps an accurate tally of the ammunition on the battery. It keeps an accurate log of the condition of the battery, whether it's inactive or active relative to the guns that are there. It has limits on how far the artillery can actually fire, so you can only fire on targets which are within a relative range to the actual battery. And as the ammunition is used, it's counted and depletes from the available in the mission itself. But you can then also run resupply missions with a C-130 or a CH-47 to replen the artillery battery. You can have up to 6 batteries deployed at any one time, and all of these are functional individually within the mission. So, without further ado, there are a few objects on the map that are not actually relevant. They're just legacy bits and pieces, so I'll point those out and we can ignore them. But to start off with, we've got a few aircraft available actually within the mission. We're going to concentrate mainly using the UH-60L, and the reason being is it's free and is available for anybody to use within the mission. So the mission is actually set within Syria map area, specifically within Cyprus. So you would need Cyprus in order for this to run natively, but within Mission Editor it is possible you could actually transfer everything over to the Caucasus or something like that, or an area or within maps that you might already have. It's relatively straightforward, won't be covered here, but yet it is achievable. So, right, without further ado, we're going to jump into the UH-60. So let's click OK, and we can see the UH-60 on the ground. I've turned all the volume down so it doesn't drown my voice out, which I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I've not exactly got the best voice for audio, but hey. If you want the functionality of the mission and the artillery in your mission, you're just going to have to put up with me for a short while longer. You can see over on the left hand side we've got SRS running. The reason SRS is running is it's integrated into the script, so at certain times when you actually do actions you will actually hear it coming out over the radio. Now the integration is totally possible within SRS, but it does require SRS to be running locally with the SRS server running locally on your PC. Or within a shared mission, sorry, not shared mission, a multiplayer mission, but I don't know how well this will actually run in multiplayer, but I'm sure it's adaptable. I don't go over how to actually set up SRS. It's not like when you join in the server, you just click connect to an IP address. There's some background stuff that needs to be done. Perhaps I will do something that covers how to actually set that up at a later date. But for those of you who want to use SRS, I'll make the assumption that you'll have the necessary knowledge and information to actually do that. So, back to the script itself. So it's all menu driven, so we can bring up the F10 menu, we can click on other, and within the mission, which will be uploaded to DCS, and I'll put if I can, I'm not the best with YouTube, I'll try and put a link to it in the description. We've got two options. We've got CTLD and RT. And I should point out at this point, the scripting for the Lua files for the mission is either using native DCS Lua code, or it's using Moose. It doesn't use Mist or anything else like that. I've chosen Moose. I believe it's the best out there. I'm not a wizard on it, but it's very well supported, and its capabilities are pretty impressive once you actually get under the hood. So big thanks out to the guys over at Moose for doing that. So first thing we want to do, let's have a quick look at the RT menu. We'll come on to CTLD and why we've got that there in a minute. So if we open up RT, we've got status and then RT battery 1 to 6. I've added the tags SPG, self-propelled gun, multi-launch rocket system and field gun, just so that it's more easily identifiable when you're actually selecting them to actually do something with them. At the moment, it's not going to do a great deal because we've actually got nothing deployed on the ground. And if I just close that menu down and click F2, but before we actually do that, let me go to F10. I did mention that we're in Cyprus, so let me zoom out a little bit and give you a bit of orientation of where we actually are. So we're currently located down this sort of southwestern corner of the map. And what we're actually interested in, we've got some red targets within the vicinity of us, and we've also got some red targets way over to the east side. And to my point earlier is, if you try to run a fire mission and try to hit these targets, it will be denied because it's beyond the 30-kilometer limit that the guns can actually fire. However, these two up here, which is where we're going to concentrate, is what we'll actually be looking at. These little blue blobs down here and the ones up to the north and the messages on screen, that's me being a little bit lazy. They're legacy from other missions which I just haven't deleted. So just ignore those. They're not actually relevant to this actual mission. So we now got some idea of where we are in the world and what we're actually doing. So let's do an F2 and go to the external view of the helicopter, which is turning and burning. Let's bring up the F10 menu. So let's click on Other. We go to Artillery, and we're going to deploy Battery 1. So we click on Battery 1, and what we're going to do, click on Deploy, and deploy. And if we spin round, we should see the battery deploying over to the left-hand side of the helicopter. Nothing spectacular. It's a tent and a couple of command posts to give it a little bit more realism. And you can see up on the screen, it says that battery 1 is currently inactive because there's 0 of 2 guns deployed. Now, you won't be able to actually use the fire mission until you've actually got the relevant guns available within the vicinity of the HQ. And I think the guns need to be within 500 or 600 meters of the HQ. I can't exactly remember which. I should mention as well, it does help if you have combined arms, and that's purely so is when you actually deploy the field guns, you can actually move them into more relative locations. So, in order to deploy guns, included within this mission is CTLD. Now, this again, as I mentioned earlier, is a Moose CTLD, not Mist. And it's been quite heavily tailored to do a number of bits and pieces that I require for other missions. But the framework of it is actually there. So we click on CTLD, we go to Manage Crates, Get Crates, Artillery, and for this example and this demonstration, we're just going to use the Paladin. So we create Paladin, we click Get, and we can see that there are 4 crates delivered in front of us. It's a little bit unrealistic because the load zone, or the zone within the mission editor, which actually determines how far away from an airbase, for example, you can spawn the crates, is normally quite tight. So it would mean you have to fly back to the airbase in order to spawn the crates. But I've extended it out for this particular mission, just so as we can actually run through the flow of it. But in order to get to use it and understand a little bit better, it might help you out. So once we've actually got them deployed, we go back into CTLD, we go to Manage Crates, and we go to Build Crates. And there's a 10-second delay before the field gun will actually appear. And this example, as I did mention, will be the Paladin. Let's just wait a second for that one to appear. And there it does, appears in front of us. Now, if we go to Artillery, oh, there we go. It's popped up automatically. It still says it's inactive. It's found one gun, but it actually requires two. So let's go back into CTLD, manage crates, get crates, artillery, paladin, get. The crates are spawned, and then we go back in again, CTLD, manage crates, and build. And again, we wait those 10 seconds for those crates to build. Just give it a couple of seconds, and we'll see them appear. There we go. So we've now got two. Now you can see where they've spawned, they've actually overlapped each other. So if we go to the F10 menu and zoom in on our location, and while I've actually zoomed in, it's probably worth mentioning as well, whenever you deploy a artillery battery, it will generate a map marker. And you can either click on the map marker and it will tell you what state it's actually in. So it will tell you that it's battery 1, it's active because it's got 2 guns, and that will change, and artillery, how many rounds are actually available within that battery. And that text updates as and when the status of the battery. Now, let me just open that up again. You'll notice you can't actually delete it. It will close automatically, but you cannot delete it. But if you if you undeploy the HQ, that marker automatically gets deleted as well. And the main reason is if you wondering, looking at the map, you think, oh, where did I put my artillery battery? You can just click up here, and it pops up and tells you the location of where that battery is. So we just minimize that one down. So let's zoom back in again. So that's another important thing to mention. So for those of you who have combined arms, if you click on and you've got it enabled, which it is within the mission, it allows you to move the tanks to give it a bit more realism. So what we'll do, this one's sitting behind, we'll move it over there, and then we'll move it up there. So we'll set path, and then that will actually start to move that tank, and then we'll take the second one and we'll do the same, and we'll move that one up there. And I'll just speed things up a little bit to move them into position. There we go. So now if I do an F2, we can see we've got both of the guns out onto the ground. Now, where I've been able to automate a lot of things within this mission and also simulate a lot of things in this mission, both what actually happens and immersion, one thing I haven't been able to do is when we select a target, be able to orientate the guns so they actually point to the target and then start the engagement. So if you've got the combined arms, and you've got an idea of where the targets are in front of you, just for that little bit of realism, just point them in the right direction. For this example, I'll just zoom out a little bit. They are roughly pointed in the right direction. You can see some red targets over to sort of in the centre of the screen. We're not engaging those ones. The one which we're actually engaging are sort of over that hill ridge right the way in the distance. So they are roughly pointed in the right direction. But anyway, so now we've got the guns deployed. If we go to other, we go to RT and go to status, we can see that one battery is deployed. It's active. Hold on, let me take the time off, the acceleration off a little bit. Let's go to other, RT status. We see we've got RT1 deployed, SPGs, it's active. He's got 2 of 2 guns, and the ammo count is 591. I should point out that when you first start in the missions, it starts with 40 rounds. And I should also mention as well that built into the mission is persistence as well. So that means when you restart the mission, the HQ deployment is remembered where it is located on the map and will automatically be redeployed. It will automatically update and remember the ammo count for the batteries. And with CTLD as well, that automatically does saving as well. So the 2 SPGs, self-propelled guns, which you deployed, they should automatically reappear again as well. There may be a couple of changes needed within the 2 scripts in order to change the file path and then to re-add them back into the mission, but we won't be covering that little bit right now. So At the moment, we've got an active artillery battery HQ with 2 SPG guns. So let's look back into the F10 menu. Let's go into RT, battery 1, and then let's have a look through the options we've actually got here. Ammo status, that'll tell you how many rounds we've actually got left. At the moment, we've got 591. Click on RT again. Ammo resupply, if we click on that, we'll cover this a little bit later on. We've got a number of options here. So we've got request CH-47 resupply by helicopter, C-130. Ignore the deployed DZ marker, green smoke. That is now automated. So when a resupply actually happens, green smoke will automatically be popped on the target as a little bit of immersion into the mission. And then the final one is battery illumination, which by default is on. What does that mean? So if you've got it turned on and your mission is at night, when you actually run the resupply mission from either the CH-47 or the C-130, as each of those aircraft approach the target, it will automatically fire an illumination bomb into the air and flood the area with light. It serves no other purpose than a little bit more immersion. And as I say, you can toggle that on and off just by clicking this button here. So let's go back to the previous menu and we'll cover resupply in a little bit more detail a little bit later on. So let's go to fire mission setup. Let's click on fire mission. We've got two options here. If we click on custom, we've got a number of options as well. Salvo is the amount of rounds that are fired, so you select what you actually want, whether it's 5, 10, 15 or 20. Ammo type, HE, smoke, illume or cluster. The spread is the impact on the target. So if you're on a really tight cluster of shells landing on the target, it's 50 meters. If you've got quite a large concentration of red targets you want to hit, 200 meters gives you more of a better option of actually hitting the targets. Effect, low, medium, high. This is the explosive effect when the shells actually land. So if you've got a concentration of heavy armor, you might want to use high. Or whatever you actually particularly want to do, or what you actually want to achieve. If you select low, it might be a mortar position with troops. So there's no requirement to actually have high explosives, but the preference is there, and it's your choice how you actually do that. And the final one is show current setup. So whatever you actually select will actually remain persistent as well. So the last mission I did, it was 1 round of smoke, 50 meter spread with low impact yield. In actual fact, if it's smoke, it doesn't have any whatsoever. So those are the custom ones. That's how you can set up your fire missions using custom. There's also within that menu, that fire mission setup, we've got presets. So within these, let me just zoom that up a little bit. It might become a little bit more clearer. We've got a light impact, standard, heavy, MLRS if you're deploying MLRS, illumination and smoke. So we can click one of these, and whichever one we click of those, that is the one which becomes active. And as I mentioned, it also remains persistent. So if you select this and use it and restart your mission, that's what the mission will start on next time. So let's be sort of generous here. Let's go for a standard. We'll use light. We'll use 5 rounds. So this will be a 5 rounds, high explosives within 50 meters of the target and with a low impact. Low explosive impact. So we select that and it pops up on screen and just confirms that. So we've done that. So let's just spin round for the fire mission itself. Let's go to the F10 menu. Let's go to RT, RT1, and let's look at the fire mission itself. Oh, what should mention gun timing. So what gun timing is, this gives you 2 options. So the first one determines how often the guns actually fire. So you've got 5, 10, 15, 20 or 30 seconds. So what does that mean is if you select 20 seconds, this gun here would fire, and then 20 seconds later it would fire again, and then 20 seconds after that it would fire again, and so on. You've also got the gun stagger delay as well, which is again 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds. So when this gun fires, this gun will fire relative to this particular time. So this gun fires, this one fires 10 seconds later. 20 seconds later, that's what you've set, this gun will fire, and then 10 seconds later this gun fires. It gives that little bit more immersion rather than both guns firing at the same time with one round after the other, etc. So you just play around with those settings to whatever meets your particular needs. So let's go to the fire mission itself. When we click on fire mission, we see some targets appear. Now these targets here are all relative to the names of the red targets which are on the map. The one which we're going to be concentrating on is red target. And if I just move out of there and go to F10, let me just scroll out a little bit. Let me go up to here, and we can see we've got the markers are from historical missions that I was doing. And we can see we've actually got 2 targets up here, and we can see it's called red target. And if I do an F7, we can see we've got 2 targets there, and we can see a previous mission which I was doing, that's actually got some old hulks there and then the impact craters. So let's do a quick F2 back to the battery itself. So bring up the F10 and we'll initiate this mission. So we go to RT, we go to battery 1, go to fire mission, red target. And now
fire mission, red target, range 11.7 kilometers, time of flight 29 seconds, 5 rounds, HE spread 50 meters.
So there we can see the SRS kicking in, and then we should start to see the guns firing. So we'll see one gun fire and then the next one. So let's go over to F7. Let's look at this. We should get very shortly a 10 seconds to impact. So the time of flight is calculated. In this particular instance, it's 29 seconds. That changes depending on where the enemy are in relation to the battery itself. So there we go.
Impact in 10 seconds.
And then boom. There's one. Then a few seconds later, we'll see the next one. And so on and so on and so on. So I think if I remember rightly, we selected 5. So that'll be 5 rounds from each gun. And you can see, but all the rounds are landing quite concentrated in relation to each other. There we go, another one directly on the target. We'll just let that run a little bit. I think there's a couple more rounds to go. I think that should be it.
Fire mission, red target complete. Check fire.
And there we have it. So that's a fire mission that's actually been done. So what we'll do is we'll do an F2. We'll go back to the guns itself. And to show you the presets, let's open up the F10. Let's click on Other. Let's click on RT, RT1. Let's go to Fire Mission Setup, Preset. This time let's drop a smoke marker. So we've selected the smoke marker, but this time we're going to drop it on red target 2, because I think, if I remember rightly, once everything has been destroyed, fire mission, yep, red target has now been removed from the list because it no longer exists. So let's hit on red target 1. We'll hear the fire mission start.
Fire mission, REDTARGET1. Range 9.6 kilometers. Time of flight 24 seconds. 1 rounds. Smoke. Spread 50 meters.
So there we go. It starts the fire. The rounds are fired, so each gun will fire 1 round. We go to F10. And we click on the target. Click on F7. We can see the targets themselves. We should get the impact soon.
Impact in 10 seconds.
And very shortly afterwards, we should see 2 red smoke markers appear. He says. There we go. So there's the red markers, and if I look around...
Fire mission, REDTARGET1 complete. Check fire.
Don't worry too much about it spelling out phonetically the name. That's easily changeable. That's just a small mistake on my side. So there we go. So we've seen a fire mission with HE, and we've seen a fire mission with red smoke. So let's do F2 and go back to the battery itself. Let's bring up the F10 menu, click on Other, RT. Let's look at RT status. When we see RT status, we've now got 585 rounds left. So, as I mentioned before, by default, it's only 40 rounds per battery when they're initially deployed until things start to get saved within persistence. So, we actually do need to do a resupply. So, first thing we're going to do is determine, well, what do we want to resupply? How many rounds do we actually need? Now, the helicopter will resupply it with 20 rounds, and the C-130 will resupply it with 40 rounds. But in this example, we're actually going to use both. So what we'll do is we'll go to F10, go to Other, RT, RT1, and we're going to run both of them simultaneously at the same time. So let's do RT resupply. We'll do CH-47.
CH-47 resupply en route to Battery 1.
And we'll do Battery 1 resupply C-130.
C-130 resupply en route to Battery 1.
So let's zoom out and go to Paphos, and there we go. If we look at the map, we can see both of those have spawned, one helicopter and one C-130. Let's follow the C-130 to start with. So we'll select it, do an F2, and we can see it's turning and burning, ready to go, and it's just starting off. If we pan round over in the distance, up over to the right hand side, we can see the CH-47 spawned as well. C-130 spawns hot, so as soon as it spawns, it's almost right ready to go and starts its taxi run to take off. The CH-47 starts cold, so it needs to go through its startup routine. The reason it starts cold versus hot is if it is spawned hot, it has this horrible tendency, being AI, to take off and fly straight into one of the physical objects and then destroy itself. So starting it off cold actually gets around that little problem. Takes a little bit longer, but hey, that's part of the immersion of the mission. So let's do a little bit of acceleration to get things underway. We can see the aircraft taxiing down the runway, and over on the top of the screen we can see the CH-47. I just pan round a little bit. I think if I remember if timing's right, it should take off just as we get to the end of the runway. If you spawn them much about the same time to get it. We should see it take off. There we go. So that's just taken off, and that is now on its way over to the battery to do its resupply. Both of the aircraft actually fly tactically low, so they're not going to go up to 6,000 feet. The only time they'll raise in altitude excessively is if there are red targets which are aggressive against them, and they will actually try to evade, etc. So let's speed things up a little bit. We've got the C-130 whizzing down the runway. It will take off, it will do a right-hand turn, and it will fly actually quite close to where the CH-47 is actually flying, but it should arrive at target before the CH-47. That's the plan. So we can see it's flying off now. You can see it's flying nice and low. It will pop up over hills and everything like that, so no need to worry about all that type of stuff. And in the foreground, we should in a second see the CH-47. There we go. So that's now both those are now flying towards the target. So what will actually happen is, as they fly towards the target, whether it's one or the other or both, each one, when it gets within a certain range, will automatically have a green smoke marker appear actually on the target, purely for visuals, and it just adds that little bit of immersion. So you'll see a green smoke pop appear. You can see it just behind the trees. If it's nighttime, as I mentioned, it will actually pop up an illumination. I'll just have a look. So is it there? No, it's not showing. But it does actually pop up an illumination flare. And it spreads the whole area with white light. So as the C-130 flies over the top, we should see pop up on the screen.
RTBTY-1 resupply plus 40 rounds, now 625. C-130 drop complete, RTB.
There we go. So that is now RTB. So if I click on F2 and go over to the CH-47, so the C-130 will now fly off for a couple of minutes and then it will automatically despawn. In the meantime, the CH-47 will fly around. It does a funny little dance, but that's DCS AI for you. It has its faults, but in actual fact, to be fair, it's actually quite good. And there we go. Over in the distance, we can see the C-130 just returning. So what the CH-47 Chinook will do is it will come down towards the marker. It will do a sort of a small little hover, and then it will actually update the ammo count. Excuse me. Maybe I'll just speed it up a little bit.
RTBTY-1 resupplied plus 20 rounds, now 645. CH-47 resupply complete, RTB.
There we go. So it's done its job, turns around, and that will do the same as the C-130. That will fly back towards Paphos base, and it will then despawn about halfway back to the base. So that's the resupply. So if we do an F10 menu, find my mouse cursor, go to other, RT status, we can now see we've increased by 60 rounds, 40 from the C-130 and 20 from the CH-47. Just do an F2 view where the battery is currently active. If you were to run an F10 RT and then deploy remove, that will actually remove the HQ battery, and if you redeploy it again, so you can actually uplift it, do a CTLD to pick up the crates, move the battery to wherever you actually want to go, and then redeploy it and start the process all over again. So if we go RT1 deploy, we'll see it's been deployed, and then we'll get a pop-up message to say that it's actually active because it meets the gun criteria of minimum of 2 per battery. In just a second, if I remember rightly. If not, maybe it doesn't do it automatically, but otherwise we can go to RT status, and we can see that it's actually active with 2 guns. It's picked those up and detected them. Likewise, what it will do is if you do go to CTLD and remove one of the guns, or if you've got red enemy in the local area and one of those guns gets destroyed, then it will also change the status of the battery. So if I go pack crates, just pack, so just created the crates, we should in just a second, there we go, the battery has now gone inactive because it doesn't have enough guns. And if I go to other, CTLD, manage crates, build crates, the gun will rebuild. Smoke is a little bit annoying. There's no way of actually changing it from 5 minutes. Once smoke starts, you get it for 5 minutes, whether you like it or not. Gun deploys, and then in a short couple of seconds, we should actually see the gun emplacement go active again, the battery go active. There we go, that's gone active. So, quick check on the F10 menu. To other, RT, you've got all the batteries to choose. Each one has their own menu within it, so they're all independent of each other. Ammo status tells you what that is. Resupply we've just done. Fire mission setup, you've got your presets and your custom. Your gun timing as to when the first gun, as to when each round fires, and how each gun fires in relatively to the other. Then the fire mission itself with the targets that update automatically. Well, hopefully you've liked what you've actually seen with the mission. You can see that it's relatively immersive. There are a few limitations on what you can and what you can't do. It should also be mentioned as well is whereas the firing here is simulated because the guns themselves, AI can't actually see the targets. If you actually deploy an HQ and you actually deploy guns and it can actually see the targets, the guns will actually start to engage the targets. The only way you could do that is, to prevent that, is if you go into mission editor and change the rules of engagement. So the guns don't engage, you actually run or control the guns simulated in order to engage targets. Hope you've enjoyed that. Yeah, please put any comments. There are a few areas that are probably a little bit more advanced than others, but hopefully for those of you who have a little bit more of an understanding, we'll be able to adapt this into your own missions as and how you see fit.